Funeral processions took place on Saturday for the victims of a stampede at a religious festival in Israel last week. Criticism is mounting in the wake of one of the biggest civilian disasters in the country's history. And the Foreign Office has confirmed one British man was among 45 people killed.
A flood of late-night prayers in Jerusalem as funerals were held Saturday for the victims of a massive stampede, one of the worst civilian disasters in Israel's history. An ultra-Orthodox Jewish festival was held on the slopes of Mount Meron overnight between Thursday and Friday. But celebrations turned to sorrow after the stampede at the overcrowded festival left at least 45 dead and more than 100 injured. The exact cause of the disaster is still unclear. Videos posted on social media suggested people had fallen downstairs and were trampled and asphyxiated when a surge of people came down upon them. The government now faces backlash for allowing the event to go ahead, despite its size far exceeding gathering restrictions during the global health crisis. That's on top of years of concerns over the safety risks of the annual event. An estimated 100,000 packed the festival this year. On Saturday, protesters gathered outside the public security minister's home in Tel Aviv. They spelled the word shame with lit candles. Some critics, however, said politicians had given in to pressures of ultra-Orthodox leaders. Those leaders are presently allied with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but have also openly disregarded the state's authority for years.
The European Commission said on Friday that the tech giant Apple distorts competition for music streaming by imposing unfair rules on rivals in its App Store.
Because they depend on the Apple App Store as a gatekeeper to access users of Apple's iPhones and iPads, and this significant market power cannot go unchecked.
She says one main concern is that Apple forces app makers to use its in-house payment system, which charges a 30% fee. She says that ends limiting consumers' choices. The charges underscore the long-running feud between music streaming service Spotify and Apple, which has its own streaming service. Apple rejects the charges, saying Spotify wants all the benefits of the App Store, but none of the costs. And in other news, former President Trump is dropping hints about a potential third presidential run. This time he shares who he'd consider as his running mate for 2024.
Former President Donald Trump says he would consider Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as a potential running mate if he runs in 2024. Speaking with Fox Business on Thursday, Trump praised the Florida governor and expressed how much his base loves the idea of a Trump-DeSantis ticket, saying, "He's done a great job as governor. I'm saying what I read and what you read. They love that ticket. Certainly Ron would be considered. He's a great guy." If Trump doesn't run, DeSantis is considered a potential GOP frontrunner for 2024. This is largely due to his handling of the pandemic, especially unapologetically lifting virus-related restrictions to keep his state open. On Wednesday, Trump revealed that if he does run in 2024, he won't officially announce it until after the 2022 elections. In an interview on the Dan Bongino show, Trump said, "I think probably the most appropriate time would be right after the 22 election. That's my opinion. I could do it sooner, but I think right after the election would be good, especially if you have a good election." He added he thinks the 2022 election will be great for Republicans. Republicans are hoping to flip both the House and the Senate, and Trump has made clear he plans to play a key role in endorsing and campaigning for candidates.
The family of the late Samsung chairman says they'll pay nearly $11 billion in inheritance taxes for his estate. They're also donating his private art collection to state curators.
He was the man credited with transforming Samsung into the world's largest smartphone and memory chip maker. And now the family of Lee Kun-hee is giving back, saying on Wednesday that they will pay more than $10.8 billion in inheritance taxes. They will also donate his vast private art collection to state curators. Lee died on October 25th, leaving an estate valued at around $23 billion. Now the hefty inheritance tax bill is one of the largest ever globally. The family plans to pay the tax over a period of 5 years in 6 installments, starting this month. The move has been closely watched amid talk of a big donation to make reparations for Lee's conviction on tax evasion and embezzlement charges over a decade ago. Much of Lee's extensive personal art collection, including masterpieces by Picasso and Monet, will be donated to organizations, including the National Museum of Korea. Shares in holding company Samsung C&T fell after the news. Investors worried over a lack of detail on how the payments would be funded or what would happen to Lee's shares.
The French government announced at the end of last week a schedule to reopen bars, restaurants and shops across the country. Businesses are hopeful as tourist season arrives. NTD's France correspondent David Vives has more.
After more than 6 months of mandatory closure, Parisian bars and restaurants are preparing to reopen. Bars will only be allowed to welcome customers on terraces. After months without business, this is a first step towards recovery. But the long-lasting restrictive measures still seem to weigh on mind of one cafe owner.
I'm lucky. My restaurant has a terrace. I don't know how that will sound for bars who don't have one. We don't really have a choice. We will review the outcome in September. We'll see.
Museums, cinemas and theaters will also be allowed to reopen on May 19th. Foreign tourists with a health pass will be allowed to visit France again from June 9th, according to the timetable published by West France and other local newspapers. Details of how the health pass will work are still unclear. For the managing director of the Paris Convention and Visitors Bureau, this means hope for businesses.
We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're entering a period where we can share our capital city again. All tourism professionals are waiting for this moment.
According to Menego, 3 million tourists from the United States visit the French capital each year. Bookings for plane tickets to Paris and Parisian hotel stays are beginning to pick up, but the price remains cheap for hotels. According to a consulting firm, a night at a top hotel in Paris currently costs around $260, instead of the average $360. But there's still a long road ahead before a return to normal life, Menego says.
Half of tourism is linked to business, so this one will probably be slow. Businesses and companies need to take their time to start again and recover.
David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Leith.